Hello everyone, welcome to Cheongfuli Weekly Report. Here we bring you the latest China's steel market prices and analysis every week. This week, steel spot prices continue to strengthen. The domestic spot price of hot-rolled coils rose by 40 yuan per ton this week, and the price of rebar increased by 30 yuan per ton. At the macro level, Sino-US relations have improved and tariff-related panic has eased somewhat. However, it should be noted that the US is still advancing its tariff policies on other countries, and the indirect impact on China's exports remains. Domestically, the Central Economic Authority's emphasis on anti-involution remains the current mainstream. The market believes that there will be greater disturbances on the supply side of bulk commodities, and the possibility of production restrictions in the steel sector still exists. On the industrial front, the weekly output of the 5 major steel products decreased while molten iron output increased, which is reflected in the output growth of non-5 major steel products, steel billets, etc. The output of the 5 major steel products decreased by 45,300 tons compared with last week, among which rebar output dropped by 76,000 tons and hot-rolled coil output fell by 20,000 tons. Products such as medium plates and wire rods saw output growth this week. On the demand side, the weekly apparent demand remains resilient, with an average weekly decrease of 29,600 tons. The decline in demand is small, and the resilience of demand is still maintained. The apparent demand for construction materials in East China and South China remains stable, and the no slack in the off-season phenomenon has driven the valuation of finished steel products to continue rising. In terms of inventory, the 5 major steel products saw a slight destocking this week. Judging from the seasonal trend, the subsequent inventory accumulation is likely to be limited. This week, the social inventory of rebar and the factory inventory of hot-rolled coils continue to decrease. In terms of the inventory accumulation of other products, steel mills are basically under no pressure. In summary, as we enter July, a month focused on macro factors, sentiment is bullish for bulk commodities. Fundamentally, however, steel demand is already in the off-season, with demand resilience exceeding expectations. In terms of profits, steel mills still enjoy good margins for the time being, with no significant pressure observed. Meanwhile, against the backdrop of high molten iron output, price support from the raw material side has returned, pushing up steel costs. Since the mainstream shipping schedules for export orders of some products are already at the end of August or even September, exports provide strong support for molten iron demand. It is necessary to pay attention to the inventory accumulation rate caused by the seasonal decline in domestic demand and the impact of spot price increases on subsequent exports. Looking ahead, if demand for steel products remains resilient, steel prices may maintain a strong oscillating trend. For procurement, those with rigid demand can appropriately increase purchases and keep an eye on further changes in demand. On the institutional side, macro policies have amplified the volatility of the market. The anti-involution trend has strengthened the market's expectations for the future. Guided by the macro atmosphere, spot prices have risen significantly. Looking ahead, with a slew of policies expected in July and August, coupled with the current sound fundamentals of steel and supported demand during the off-season, steel prices are likely to rise rather than fall. To sum up, recently, steel prices have remained stable with a slightly strong oscillating trend, and price expectations have been revised. Among the varieties, billets are recommended. Okay, feel free to leave your thoughts, questions, or any related inquiries in the comment box below. And if you found this video valuable, don't forget to follow us for more updates. See you next week.